In the stillness of space, silence is not empty. It is vast, infinite, and eternal. A silence that has reigned since the first stars ignited, stretching across the endless dark like a quiet ocean. Within this silence, planets turn slowly in their orbits, moons trace their ancient paths, and light itself drifts across unfathomable distances. For billions of years, our solar system has followed its steady rhythm. Planets circling the sun, comets diving inward only to retreat again, asteroids tumbling through their belts like forgotten relics. It is a cosmic dance we have come to expect, a pattern so familiar that we rarely imagine it being interrupted. And then, without warning, something new entered the stage. An object not from here, not from anywhere we know. Astronomers first noticed it on a quiet night, hidden in the flood of data pouring in from the telescopes that scan the skies. At first, it was only a faint speck of light, drifting against the background of stars. But as the days passed, its path became clear. This was no ordinary asteroid, no familiar comet. It was something else, something stranger. They called it 3I Atlas. The name itself carries weight. The 3I marks it as only the third interstellar object ever recorded by humanity. Before it, there was Oumuamua in 2017 and 2I Borisov in 2019. Both had shocked the scientific world. But Atlas, this one was different. It wasn't just visiting, it was passing close to Mars, as though deliberately choosing the red planet as its silent witness. And so, a new mystery began. At first, the discovery seemed almost ordinary. After all, space is full of wandering debris. Stars give birth to planets, planets collide, and fragments are cast adrift into the void. It is inevitable that, from time to time, shards from other systems would stumble into ours. But the more astronomers studied 3I Atlas, the less ordinary it appeared. Its trajectory was strange, too strange. Most interstellar visitors follow smooth, hyperbolic paths, gliding past the sun and back into interstellar darkness. But 3I Atlas didn't quite fit the mold. Its orbit was erratic, its acceleration inconsistent, as if something unseen was tugging at it. Its brightness, too, was unsettling. It flared and dimmed unpredictably, glowing green at times, teal at others, sometimes pulsing as though alive. Instruments disagreed. Telescopes saw one thing, spectrographs another. No single measurement seemed to hold steady. Was it simply reflecting sunlight in unexpected ways? Or was there more? Some hidden mechanism at work? Some process beyond the reach of current science? In the vast stillness of space, Atlas had arrived like a question we did not know how to answer. From Earth, we could only watch. Mars, the planet of war in ancient myth, became the backdrop for this silent drama. The object streaked past its red terrain, glowing faintly against the dusty horizon, as if the planet itself were bearing witness to the encounter. In mythology, Atlas was the titan condemned to hold up the heavens. The name feels strangely fitting. This object, this stranger, seemed to carry the weight of countless questions on its shoulders. Was it natural, artificial, or something in between? Was it a message, a remnant, a mistake? Humanity has always been haunted by such arrivals. When comets appeared in ancient skies, people saw omens, warnings of famine, war, or divine judgment. Today we call ourselves scientific, rational. We know comets are ice and dust, not messengers of fate. And yet, when something truly alien appears, something from beyond the familiar borders of our solar system, that ancient unease awakens again. We find ourselves staring into the unknown, wondering if perhaps the old myths were right in ways we never understood. The discovery of 3I Atlas did not just spark scientific interest. It stirred something deeper, a sense of humility, of cosmic perspective. Consider the distances involved. This fragment had traveled light years, perhaps tens or hundreds of thousands of them, wandering through interstellar space for longer than human civilization has existed. It may have left its home system before Earth's continents even took their modern shape. And yet, Against all odds, it found its way here, into the narrow band of space we call home. What are the chances? What are the odds that, in all the infinity of the universe, we would cross paths with such a traveler? Perhaps it is nothing. A coincidence. A meaningless fragment caught in the right place at the right time. But perhaps it is not. We are quick to call such things discoveries. But perhaps it is more accurate to say, we have been discovered. For just as we observed 3I Atlas, it may in some sense have observed us, not consciously perhaps, but through its silent passage, reminding us that the universe is larger, stranger, and more alive with mystery than we allow ourselves to believe. In the end, what matters is not only what it is, but what it represents. A crack in the wall of certainty. A reminder that the cosmos is not finished with us. That there are questions waiting out there, bigger than our science, older than our myths, and deeper than our imagination. 3I Atlas is not simply an object. It is a riddle carved in stone and light, drifting across the solar system, asking us to listen. And so we begin our journey, not with answers, but with a question. But to understand the mystery of 3I Atlas, we must first look backward. For this is not the first time a stranger has crossed into our system. And if history is any guide, each visitor leaves us with deeper uncertainty than the last. When 3I Atlas first appeared, scientists and dreamers alike felt a strange sense of déjà vu. This was not the first time the universe had sent a wanderer through our celestial neighborhood. The story begins in 2017 with a discovery that stunned the world. An object, unlike anything ever recorded, swept through the solar system. It was elongated, tumbling erratically, and accelerating in ways we could not explain. Its name was Oumuamua, a Hawaiian word meaning a messenger from afar, arriving first. Oumuamua was humanity's first confirmed interstellar visitor. For centuries, astronomers had speculated that fragments from distant star systems must occasionally pass through ours. But speculation is one thing, proof is another. And here it was, gliding silently past the sun, vanishing into the dark before we could truly understand it. It came and went so quickly that we were left with little more than blurred images and mathematical models. Some thought it was a shard of rock or ice flung from the birth of another world. Others whispered of alien probes disguised as debris, slipping silently between the stars. The truth was never found. 2 years later, in 2019, the cosmos offered us another chance. This time, the object was clearer, brighter, and more familiar. Named 2I Borisov, after the amateur astronomer who first spotted it, it was unmistakably a comet. Its glowing tail of gas and dust stretched across the void, behaving much like the comets born in our own system. But familiarity did not erase wonder. Because Borisov was not ours. Its chemical fingerprints suggested it had formed around another star, in another cradle of creation. For the first time, we had proof that comets, those icy storytellers of the solar system, are not unique to us. They are universal. They drift between stars, carrying the chemistry of life across unimaginable distances. If Oumuamua was a puzzle and Borisov a reassurance, then 3I Atlas is something else entirely. Something that refuses to fit neatly into either category. Each of these cosmic strangers left us with more questions than answers. Oumuamua taught us that the universe still holds surprises, objects that defy our neat categories of asteroid or comet. Borisov reminded us that the building blocks of life may be scattered across the galaxy, drifting endlessly, waiting for worlds to catch them. But 3 Atlas, it unsettles us in a different way, because it seems to combine the worst of both mysteries. Like Oumuamua, it moves in ways that resist explanation. Like Borisov, it glows, but in colors and patterns we do not understand. It is as if the cosmos, having shown us a messenger and a comet, has now placed before us something that is both and neither. There is a pattern here, if one dares to look. 3 visitors, each stranger than the last. 3 chances for humanity to look outward and realize how little we know. Perhaps this is coincidence, a trick of timing, a statistical inevitability in an infinite universe. Or perhaps it is something else. Some have speculated that the solar system may lie along an unseen pathway, a quiet cosmic current through which interstellar debris occasionally drifts. If so, then these visitors are not accidents. They are signs of a larger pattern, a hidden architecture guiding fragments across the galaxy. Others imagine something more deliberate, that these objects are not just travelers, but messages, artifacts, proof that we are not alone, and that with each encounter, the universe is slowly, cautiously revealing more of itself. We cannot prove these ideas, but neither can we dismiss them. It is humbling to realize how brief these encounters truly are. Oumuamua slipped past in a matter of weeks. Borisov lasted longer, but still only a season before fading from view. 3I Atlas, too, will vanish soon, slipping back into the black beyond the reach of our telescopes. They come to us, and then they are gone, reminders that the universe does not linger for our convenience. And yet, even in their brief appearances, they change us. They expand the boundaries of our imagination. They force us to admit that our solar system is not an isolated stage, but part of a grander theater, one where the actors may drift in from light years away, uninvited, unannounced, and unforgettable. The legacy of these cosmic strangers is not simply in the data they leave behind, it is in the questions they plant within us. What else is out there? How many more wanderers have passed unnoticed before our instruments were sharp enough to see them? And what will we find when the next visitor arrives? Perhaps the most unsettling thought is not that 3I Atlas is unique, but that it is not. That the universe is filled with such travelers, and that we have only just begun to notice them. If that is true, then the mystery of 3I Atlas is not a solitary riddle. It is the beginning of a dialogue. One written not in words, but in stone, ice, and light. But before we can unravel its mystery, we must pause and consider something deceptively simple: its name. For in the act of naming, we reveal not just what an object is, but what we believe it to be. In the beginning, there is only silence and motion, an object drifting through the dark. But the moment we see it, the moment we take note of its passage, we do what humans have always done. We give it a name. For some, this may seem trivial. A string of letters and numbers, a catalog entry in a database. Yet names carry power. They anchor the unknown, offering us a sense of order in a universe that rarely gives it freely. To name something is to say, "We have noticed you. You are no longer invisible." And so this latest interstellar visitor became 3I Atlas. The first part of the name is technical, 3I. The I stands for interstellar, marking this as only the third such object ever recorded by humanity. Just 3. Out of all the centuries of observation, out of the billions of asteroids and comets catalogued within our system, this is the third that we can say with certainty did not come from here. The number reminds us of how fragile and rare these discoveries are, each one an exception to the rule of cosmic familiarity. But the second part of the name, Atlas, is where the human imagination enters. The object was discovered by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, a network of telescopes designed to spot dangerous rocks before they collide with Earth. From this, the acronym ATLAS was inherited. In one sense, it is a simple bureaucratic label, a technical stamp marking the instruments that first caught its light. And yet, as with so many names in astronomy, coincidence bends into poetry, because Atlas is no ordinary word. In Greek mythology, Atlas was a titan, condemned to carry the weight of the heavens on his shoulders for eternity. A figure of burden and endurance, a cosmic pillar holding apart sky and earth. Is it chance, then, that this strange object should bear his name? Or is it another layer of symbolism waiting for us to notice? Throughout history, we have named the heavens in ways that reflect ourselves. The constellations are stories etched into the stars. Orion the hunter, Andromeda the chained maiden, Scorpius the avenger. Even the planets bear the names of gods and kings: Jupiter, ruler of the skies; Mars, the bringer of war; Venus, the goddess of beauty. By giving the unknown a name, we transform it into something we can hold in the mind. Without this act, it remains faceless, untouchable, alien. But with a name, it begins to belong to our story, even if only in a small way. 3i, Atlas, is not just a piece of drifting rock or ice. By naming it, we have folded it into our mythology, into our history, into the ongoing dialogue between humanity and the stars. And yet, there is irony here. To name something does not mean we understand it. Quite the opposite. Often, the more mysterious an object is, the more quickly we reach for language to bind it. The act of naming becomes a defense against the discomfort of ignorance. When ancient people saw comets blaze across the night sky, they called them harbingers of doom. When astronomers discovered new planets, they gave them the names of gods. Today, we attach catalog numbers, mission acronyms, and mythological echoes. But beneath the names, the mystery remains. With 3i Atlas, the paradox deepens. Its name is both sterile and evocative, both technical and mythic. A number that marks it as the third of its kind, and a title that suggests cosmic weight, burden, and endurance. It is as though the universe itself insists that this object cannot be contained by mere classification. There is something humbling in this, because names may give us the illusion of control, but they also reveal our limitations. We name what we do not understand in the hope that, by labeling it, we can make sense of it. Yet often, the name becomes a mirror, reflecting our own fears, hopes, and imagination more than the reality of the thing itself. What then does the name Atlas say about us? Perhaps it speaks to the weight we place upon these visitors, the way we ask them to carry our questions about life, about the universe, about whether or not we are alone. We place our burdens on their silent shoulders, just as the Titan bore the heavens. And yet, the object drifts on, indifferent to our stories. To the cosmos, it is nameless. To the void, it is only motion. The name belongs to us, not to it. As we gaze upon 3i Atlas, we are reminded that naming is not the same as knowing. A name is a doorway, not a destination. It invites us to look closer, to study, to imagine. But it does not resolve the riddle. This is the heart of the paradox. The more we name, the more we realize how much lies beyond the reach of language. And so, we have named it. But what does it mean that its path carried it not near Earth, but near Mars, the silent red planet, long a canvas for our myths of war, life, and mystery? Perhaps the stage it chose tells us as much as its name. When 3i Atlas entered our solar system, it could have passed close to many worlds. It could have brushed by Venus, our brilliant morning star. It could have swept near the giant Jupiter, lord of the planets. It could even have crossed paths with Earth, stirring headlines and fear. But it did not. Instead, its path bent toward the red planet, the quiet neighbor that has long haunted our imagination. Mars became the stage upon which this encounter unfolded. Why Mars? Why there, and not here? From a purely scientific perspective, the answer may be simple: coincidence. The object's path, traced across interstellar space for eons, just happened to intersect Mars's orbit. A matter of chance, like a stone skipping across a pond and striking a ripple at just the right place. And yet, it is difficult not to feel something more in the choice of stage. Mars has always occupied a liminal place in our collective imagination. It is close, but not too close. Familiar, yet alien. A world that looks like ours from a distance, yet remains stubbornly silent when we search for signs of life. It has been called a mirror world, an echo of Earth's possibilities and failures. To have an interstellar visitor pass near this world feels symbolically charged, as though the cosmos chose its witness with care. For centuries, Mars has been a canvas upon which we projected our hopes and fears. The Babylonians associated it with Nergal, the god of war, plague, and destruction. The Greeks knew it as Ares, fierce and unyielding. The Romans renamed it Mars, a deity of conquest, but also of guardianship, protector of fields and cities. Its crimson glow has always carried weight. Ancient peoples looked upon its fiery light and imagined bloodshed, conflict, and cosmic omens. Even today, the phrase, "the red planet," carries undertones of danger and fascination. But Mars is more than myth. Science has revealed a world once alive with rivers and lakes, now barren, its atmosphere stripped away, its surface scarred by dust storms and craters. It is a planet that once might have held life, only to lose it. A world that reminds us of fragility, of how easily habitability can vanish. When 3I Atlas streaked past, Mars stood there like a sentinel, scarred, ancient, silent, watching as it has for billions of years. From orbit, probes captured the faint glow of the interstellar visitor reflecting against the Martian sky. For a brief moment, the planet of myth and memory played host to something older still, an object from beyond the stars. The sight was eerie, almost theatrical. The red sands below, the black void above, and in between, the shimmering passage of a stranger. It is tempting to see symbolism in this, to imagine that the universe chose Mars deliberately, as though reminding us of something. That the planet we have long looked to for signs of other life was given a front-row seat to a visitor that itself raises questions of origin and purpose. Could this be coincidence? Of course. But could it also be a cosmic reminder, a nudge toward humility and curiosity? Perhaps. In mythology, Mars was often seen not only as a god of war, but as a watcher, a figure who stood guard at the edge of the known world, protecting the balance of order and chaos. And now, in the modern era, Mars has become exactly that, a sentinel world at the edge of Earth's reach. Our rovers roll across its surface, our orbiters scan its thin skies, and soon our species may set foot there. For an interstellar object to pass by at this moment in history, when humanity is on the cusp of becoming a multiplanetary species, feels almost symbolic. As though Mars itself were quietly reminding us, the universe is watching too. There is also a strange irony in the silence. Mars has been the subject of countless fantasies of invasion. From H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds to decades of science fiction films, we imagined hostile Martians descending upon Earth. We feared the red planet as a source of danger. And yet, reality has inverted the story. Mars did not send an invasion. Instead, it became the witness to a visitor from beyond. It did not move toward us. The cosmos moved toward it. The warrior planet stood still, and the stranger passed by, leaving us once again with more questions than answers. What did Mars see, if we allow ourselves to speak poetically? A traveler older than its mountains, a fragment born in another star's light, crossing paths with a world that once may have known rivers, seas, and perhaps even life. One silence encountering another. In this meeting, there is something profoundly humbling. For Mars, though silent, is not empty. Its surface holds memories of water, of potential, of worlds lost. And 3I Atlas carries the weight of distances beyond imagination. Together, for a fleeting moment, they shared a stage. We may never know why its path intersected there, or what secrets it carried as it drifted past the red horizon. But one thing is certain. Mars, with all its myth and memory, has now become part of the story. It is no longer just Earth that bears witness to the mysteries of the cosmos. Our neighbor, too, has stood beneath the passage of an interstellar stranger. And perhaps that is the true meaning of this encounter, that we are not the only observers. That the universe in all its vastness speaks not only to us, but to every world it touches. But seeing is not the same as knowing. From Mars, the glow of 3I Atlas was mysterious, but from Earth, our instruments revealed something stranger still, patterns of light that refused to make sense. The first glimpses brought not clarity, but deeper confusion. The first images of 3I Atlas did not come with trumpets or fanfare. They arrived quietly, grainy captures from telescopes trained toward the faint moving light near Mars. At first glance, it seemed like any other object tracked across the heavens, a streak against a dark background, a whisper of motion across the stillness of space. But soon, the whispers turned into questions. When NASA released its preliminary report, it noted something unusual. The brightness of the object was not steady. Most asteroids and comets, when observed from afar, show predictable changes in luminosity as they rotate or reflect sunlight. But 3I Atlas shimmered erratically, as though it were flickering, brightening one moment, dimming the next, then blazing with intensity far beyond what its size should allow. Astronomers called these irregular light curves. To the public, they looked like signals. Speculation began almost immediately. Some wondered if the flickering was the result of a tumbling motion as the object spun unpredictably through space. Others suggested that volatile gases might be venting in uneven bursts, like a comet shedding jets of ice and dust. But the data did not fit neatly into either explanation. The pattern of brightness fluctuations was too chaotic to be explained by a simple spin. And unlike comets, 3I Atlas showed no clear tail of dust or ice. Instead, it glowed with a strange intensity as though lit from within. It was a puzzle, and with every observation, the puzzle deepened. Trajectory was the next mystery. When scientists attempted to model its path, they found subtle deviations, tiny drifts that could not be explained by gravity alone. The object did not follow the clean, predictable curve expected of a rock falling past Mars. Something was nudging it, something unseen. Such non-gravitational accelerations have been observed before. Oumuamua, the first interstellar visitor, exhibited a similar drift, likely caused by outgassing. But in the case of 3I Atlas, the direction and magnitude of the deviation seemed inconsistent. It was as if the object was moving with a will of its own. The first high-resolution images, stitched together from multiple observatories, only deepened the mystery. Unlike comets, which tend to appear fuzzy, or asteroids, which appear as simple dots of light, 3I Atlas displayed sharp, jagged edges. Some astronomers described it as elongated but irregular, like a shard broken from something larger. Its surface reflected light in strange ways. Certain angles blazed with brilliance, while others seemed to swallow light entirely. One report noted that it behaved almost like a mirror fractured into pieces, catching sunlight at unexpected moments and scattering it unpredictably. For scientists accustomed to cataloging rocks, the language shifted. Instead of certainty, they spoke in metaphors. Instead of measurements, they resorted to comparisons. It looked, some said, like a stone. Others thought it resembled a splintered structure. A few quietly admitted that they did not know what it looked like at all. NASA's official statements remained cautious. The object, they said, was unclassified, still under study, still requiring more data. But in between the lines, there was unease. Every report concluded the same way, more questions than answers. And as those reports circulated, the public began to speculate wildly. Online forums brimmed with theories. A broken alien probe, a fragment of a shattered planet, even a vessel disguising itself as stone. Scientists pushed back, reminding us that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Yet privately, many admitted that the object did not behave like anything they had ever studied. The flickering light in particular became a source of fascination. Some suggested it might be a resonance effect, caused by the object's shape and rotation scattering sunlight in complex patterns. Others wondered if its surface contained highly reflective materials, amplifying certain wavelengths. But the most unsettling possibility was one that few dared to voice aloud, that the light fluctuations might be artificial, deliberate, or purposeful. It was not the first time such speculation arose. Oumuamua had prompted similar whispers when its unusual acceleration defied explanation. But 3I Atlas amplified the unease. Its irregularities were sharper, more dramatic, harder to dismiss. It was as though the cosmos had given us another riddle, this time with fewer clues. In the quiet of observatories, astronomers stared at their screens and saw numbers that refused to behave. The object was at once too bright and too dim, too still and too restless, too familiar and too alien. It belonged everywhere and nowhere. It fit every category, yet slipped through each like water through a net. Some scientists began to describe it not in terms of what it was, but in terms of what it was not. It was not a comet, not in the traditional sense. It was not an asteroid, not by any known standard. It was not a probe, not by any evidence we could confirm. And yet, it bore fragments of all three. It was something that resisted naming, resisted classification. As weeks passed, the data only grew stranger. Certain instruments recorded faint emissions in wavelengths that did not match typical thermal profiles. Some observatories reported pulses of brightness lasting mere seconds, too sharp to be explained by rotation. Each anomaly was small on its own, easily dismissed. Together, they formed a pattern of the inexplicable. The more we studied it, the less we understood. For the public, the mystery became irresistible. Headlines proclaimed it as a possible alien artifact. Documentaries speculated on its origins. Conspiracy theories flourished. And yet, beneath the noise, the true story was more haunting. That here, in the silence of the cosmos, was an object we could not explain. Not with the tools of astronomy, not with the categories of science, not with the metaphors of myth. It was, in the simplest terms, a stranger. And perhaps that is why the first glimpses of 3I Atlas left us so unsettled. Not because it looked like a ship, or because it defied our expectations, but because in its refusal to fit into any category, it reminded us of how little we truly know. It was as if the universe itself had placed a mirror in the sky, reflecting not our knowledge, but our ignorance. If the first images brought confusion, the first close studies brought something even more disquieting. For as astronomers attempted to measure its surface and structure, they found that the object seemed to resist observation itself, as though cloaked in mystery deeper than stone or dust. In the vast theater of the cosmos, everything has its script. Planets sweep their paths with elegance, tracing ellipses written in the language of Newton and Kepler. Moons circle faithfully. Comets curve in wide arcs, their journeys predictable once the numbers are known. For centuries, orbital mechanics has been humanity's most reliable compass. With it, we can forecast eclipses centuries in advance, predict asteroid encounters down to the hour, and send spacecraft across billions of miles with astonishing precision. In space, gravity is law, and law in the universe is rarely broken. When 3I Atlas first came into view, scientists assumed it too would obey. Its trajectory could be measured, plotted, and catalogued like any other traveler passing through the solar system. Early calculations showed the expected hyperbolic path, an open curve that confirmed its origin beyond the sun's grasp. But soon, the numbers began to drift. Tiny deviations appeared in the models. At first, they were dismissed as noise, errors in measurement, atmospheric interference, or limitations in instruments. But as data accumulated from multiple observatories, the anomalies persisted. 3I Atlas was not following the clean arc of a gravitational curve. It was wandering, just enough to be undeniable, just enough to suggest that something more was at play. Astronomers turned to familiar explanations. Perhaps it was outgassing, the venting of frozen gases as sunlight warmed its surface, producing invisible jets that nudged its trajectory. Comets behave this way, drifting slightly as they release plumes of vapor and dust. But the theory frayed quickly. Outgassing leaves traces, tails, comas, faint halos of debris. 3I Atlas revealed none of these. Its form was sharp, its edges stark. If gases were escaping, they left no evidence behind. Another possibility was radiation pressure, the subtle push of sunlight itself. Photons carry momentum, and across vast distances, their pressure can alter the motion of small, lightweight objects. Solar sails, built by humans, exploit this very principle. Yet here, too, the numbers resisted. For radiation pressure to explain the drift, 3I Atlas would need to be far lighter than it appeared, almost paper-thin, like a sheet spread across the stars. But images suggested otherwise. Its fractured, jagged silhouette looked dense, massive, unwilling to be so easily moved. Some turned to magnetism. Perhaps the object interacted with the charged particles streaming from the sun, its path twisted by invisible lines of force. But the solar wind, though powerful, does not treat rock and ice so dramatically. Its influence is real, but faint. Nowhere near enough to account for what was observed. And so the familiar options fell away, one by one. What remained was a gap, an unsettling silence in the equations where explanation should reside. To most, these deviations might seem trivial, a fraction of a degree, a sliver of uncertainty. But in astronomy, such details matter. A small, unexplained drift, when projected across millions of miles, becomes a gulf of difference. It is the kind of discrepancy that tells us we are missing something fundamental. And missing pieces are often the beginning of revelations. Among scientists, the tone shifted. Some whispered of non-gravitational accelerations, a phrase that sounds technical but hides a deeper unease. It is the language we use when an object moves as though touched by invisible hands. To skeptics, this was nothing more than another puzzle waiting to be solved. Nature, after all, has a way of surprising us, then revealing herself in time. But to others, the drift carried a different weight. It echoed the mystery of Oumuamua. It hinted at possibilities that many preferred not to name. And so, the orbit of 3I Atlas became more than mathematics. It became a riddle, a message written in the only language the cosmos truly speaks: motion. But what was that message saying? That we do not yet understand the subtle forces at work? That our models, refined though they are still incomplete? Or perhaps something stranger, something deliberate, hidden within the path of this interstellar wanderer? In the end, the numbers did not lie. The object was moving in ways that should not be possible, or at least not yet explainable. Every update to its projected course came with greater uncertainty. Each new observation added weight to the sense that the cosmos was once again reminding us of our limits. We pride ourselves on reading the stars, on predicting their motions with near-perfect clarity. But 3I Atlas broke the rhythm, stepping out of the cosmic dance as though moving to music we could not hear. And perhaps that is the most humbling lesson of all, that even in the language of orbits, one of our most trusted translations of the universe, there remain dialects we cannot yet understand. If its path was strange, its silence was stranger still. For as telescopes strained to measure its spectrum, 3I Atlas seemed to reveal almost nothing. Neither the chemical signatures of rock nor the familiar fingerprints of ice, but something far more elusive. From the earliest days of astronomy, humankind has tried to categorize the shapes of things drifting through the heavens. Asteroids tend to be irregular but solid, their surfaces scarred by countless collisions. Comets are icy and diffuse, surrounded by glowing halos when they near the sun. Even dwarf planets, strange as they are, carry the dignity of spherical form. But when the first images of 3I Atlas were sharpened, its outline did not belong to any of these familiar families. Observers noted an elongated profile stretched out like a shard pulled from some greater body. To some, it looked like a splinter of stone. To others, a broken blade. Its proportions seemed unnatural, not merely irregular, but suggestive of something fractured, as though it had once been whole and now was only a remnant. Yet within this elongation lay contradictions. At times, the object appeared massive and solid, reflecting sunlight in sharp bursts like polished stone. At other times, the same data implied a hollowness, a structure less dense than expected, almost like a shell. Solid yet fragile, dense yet empty. A paradox wrapped in motion. Texture became the next enigma. Where most space rocks present surfaces dulled by eons of radiation, 3I Atlas shimmered with an odd unevenness. Certain angles blazed, scattering light as though from glass or metal. Others absorbed it completely, disappearing into shadow darker than the void itself. The object behaved like a fractured mirror, catching light not smoothly, but in jagged bursts, splinters of radiance across the black backdrop of space. No other natural body had ever been recorded reflecting light in quite this way. Energy readings deepened the puzzle. Instruments tuned to various wavelengths reported faint emissions not consistent with ordinary rock or ice. Some spectra hinted at unusual minerals, perhaps exotic alloys unseen in local asteroids. Others suggested something even stranger, a lattice of luminous patterns, as if the surface itself carried energy lines running like veins across a body. At times, these lines appeared to glow faintly, pulsing in brightness for brief moments before fading again. To scientists, it was a data point. To the imagination, it was the image of something alive. The duality haunted every observation. Was 3I Atlas a fragment of a planet torn apart in some distant system, cast into interstellar exile? Was it a hollowed husk, the remnant of a once functional machine? Or was it something we had no category for? A form both natural and unnatural, both stone and structure. Each hypothesis seemed plausible for a moment, until the next wave of data stripped it away. There was also the question of symmetry. Natural objects rarely display it, save for the rounding influence of gravity. Yet some images of 3I Atlas hinted at repeating angles, faint impressions of edges aligned too neatly to be dismissed. The suggestion was never strong enough to declare it artificial, but it lingered, an itch at the edges of analysis, as though geometry itself were trying to speak. It was not proof, but it was not silence either. Among astronomers, the unease grew. The longer the object was studied, the more it seemed to resist definition. It was, in every sense, out of place. Too reflective for stone, too hollow for ice, too luminous for dust. Even comparisons to its predecessors faltered. Oumuamua had been elongated, yes, but muted, a shadow passing quietly. 2I Borisov had been a comet, its identity clear. 3I Atlas was neither shadow nor comet. It was something that looked familiar at a glance, only to dissolve into strangeness under scrutiny. And so the scientific reports began to read like riddles. One paper compared it to volcanic glass. Another suggested metallic alloys. A third floated the idea of layered ice sheets riddled with cavities. None of these explanations could account for the flickering luminous lines. The deeper the data went, the stranger the interpretations became. To the public, the images were mesmerizing. Online, enhanced renderings of the object circulated widely. Its jagged edges lit up in neon colors, its glowing surface lines exaggerated until they looked like circuits. Some saw in it the shape of a vessel, others the fossil of something ancient. Speculation bled into imagination. And yet, behind the wild theories, a quieter truth remained. Even stripped of fantasy, the real object was stranger than fiction. Perhaps that is why the scientists themselves seemed so cautious. Not because they had found evidence of artificiality, but because they could not rule it out. And in science, to say, "we do not know," is often the most unsettling conclusion of all. For an object like this should not exist here, wandering through our solar neighborhood with properties that defy both comet and asteroid. It was, as the data made increasingly clear, an outlier, a stranger among strangers. Maybe it is nothing more than stone, shaped by forces we do not yet understand. Maybe it is a relic of cosmic violence, carrying the scars of a collision light years away. Or maybe though the evidence remains elusive, it is something else entirely. Something that wears the mask of stone but hides another story beneath. In the end, 3I Atlas refused to fit the molds we had built. Its form remained ambiguous, its texture contradictory, its energy readings elusive. It was not simply an interstellar visitor. It was an intruder into our categories, a reminder that nature does not always conform to the boxes we create for it. An object out of place. An object that looked back at us through fractured light and silent mystery. If its shape unsettled us, its silence unsettled us even more. For when scientists tried to listen, truly listen, to 3I Atlas, they found only absence, a void where sound and signal should have been. Before there was 3I Atlas, there was Oumuamua. In 2017, astronomers in Hawaii detected a faint object streaking through the solar system, so fast, so unusual, that it could not have originated from our own neighborhood. They named it Oumuamua, a Hawaiian word meaning a messenger from afar arriving first. It was the first confirmed interstellar visitor. And for a brief, extraordinary moment, the world looked at the sky with fresh wonder. The debates began immediately. Oumuamua was long and slender, unlike any asteroid or comet seen before. Its light curve suggested an elongated shape, perhaps 10 times longer than it was wide, like a cosmic shard. It brightened and dimmed as it tumbled, an irregular rhythm that seemed to hint at something artificial. Some believed it was a comet, venting gases that nudged its trajectory. But no tail appeared, no coma of ice or dust. Others argued it was simply an unusually shaped rock flung from another star system by chance. Yet the strangeness of its form resisted easy dismissal. Then came the most controversial idea of all. Perhaps it was not a rock at all, but a probe, an object built, not born. Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb was one of the first to publicly entertain this possibility. In his view, the acceleration of Oumuamua, unexplained by gravity alone, might have been the result of a thin, sail-like structure catching sunlight. Technology, not geology. The scientific community responded with caution, some with outright rejection. Extraordinary claims, they reminded us, demand extraordinary evidence. And yet, the mystery remained unresolved. No explanation fit neatly. Each theory carried gaps, unanswered questions, unmeasured forces. In the end, Oumuamua slipped away, out of reach, out of sight, and out of certainty. Then, 2 years later, came 2I Borisov. Unlike its predecessor, Borisov looked and behaved like a comet. It bore a tail, it shed gases, it followed expected rules. Its identity was clear, almost reassuring. If Oumuamua was the riddle, Borisov was the answer. Interstellar objects could be ordinary after all, but reassurance did not last. Now, with 3I Atlas drifting near Mars, the old debates have resurfaced. Once again, we find ourselves caught between categories, staring at data that refuses to align with expectation. Once again, an interstellar visitor moves with peculiar accelerations, reflecting light in irregular ways, hinting at something we cannot yet name. And so the echoes of Oumuamua return, not in the form of evidence, but in the shape of our uncertainty. Is 3I Atlas a continuation of a cosmic pattern? Are we seeing the emergence of a new class of interstellar debris, objects that are neither asteroid nor comet, but something stranger? Shards of shattered worlds, relics of cosmic catastrophes? Or is it possible that these anomalies, when taken together, hint at something else entirely, something deliberate? The human mind is quick to search for patterns. One unusual object might be chance, 2 might be coincidence. But 3? With 3I Atlas, we find ourselves asking whether we are witnessing random fragments or a chorus of messengers, each carrying a fragment of a larger story. Could it be that interstellar space is filled with such wanderers, and we are only now learning to see them? Or could it be that these objects are not random at all, but part of a distribution shaped by forces we do not yet understand, forces that might even include intelligence? In the quiet of observatories, scientists wrestle with these questions. Some are cautious, wary of repeating the controversies that surrounded Oumuamua. Others are bolder, willing to entertain speculation. Perhaps 3I Atlas is not unique, but part of a lineage. Perhaps the universe regularly sends us these fragments, reminders that we are not the only system flinging debris into the void. Yet in every theory lies a deeper reflection. What if the universe is not silent at all, but speaks in riddles too vast for us to hear clearly? The comparison to Oumuamua brings both comfort and disquiet. Comfort because we are not encountering the unexplainable for the first time. Disquiet because the pattern suggests we may be seeing the edges of a phenomenon still hidden from view. Is interstellar space littered with the ruins of ancient worlds? Are we glimpsing fragments of technology lost to time, drifting endlessly between stars? Or are these simply stones, strange only because our sample size is so small, our knowledge so young? 3I Atlas, like Oumuamua, will eventually slip beyond reach. Its mysteries may remain unresolved, its riddles unanswered. But its presence deepens the echo of that first encounter, layering uncertainty upon uncertainty. And in those echoes, we hear the humbling truth that even as our telescopes sharpen, even as our instruments grow more precise, the universe continues to present us with mysteries that resist explanation. Perhaps the point is not to solve them immediately, but to learn to live with their questions. In the silence between the stars, a shard passes, then another, then another. Each one carries echoes of the last. And together, they remind us that our story with the cosmos is only beginning. If echoes tie 3I Atlas to what came before, its presence near Mars gives the mystery a new stage. For in that red world, ancient, silent, and waiting, we find both a witness and a mirror. For most of human history, light in the sky followed predictable rules. Stars shone steadily, their nuclear fires pulsing only in measurable cycles. Comets reflected sunlight, trailing hazy tails in quiet obedience. Auroras danced near planetary poles, glowing in predictable ribbons of green and red. Yet when telescopes turned toward 3I Atlas near Mars, they observed something entirely different. The first reports described the glow as subtle, almost ephemeral. At certain angles, the object shimmered with a faint green hue, like the auroras of Earth, but far sharper, more intense. Observatories in other hemispheres saw it differently. Teal, sometimes almost blue, and at rare moments, it pulsed, brightening, dimming, then glowing again with a rhythm that seemed irregular, almost deliberate. It was light that should not exist. Initial theories tried to ground the phenomenon in the familiar. Perhaps it was natural ionization, particles on the object's surface interacting with solar radiation, releasing faint bands of colored light. Or perhaps micrometeorite impacts caused sparks along its jagged surface, producing fleeting flashes of brilliance. But the data resisted consistency. Instruments at different observatories often disagreed. One telescope would record a sudden flare, another would see none. Even when multiple instruments captured a glow simultaneously, the spectral signature varied unpredictably. The light was not following the rules. Some scientists suggested a more dramatic explanation: controlled emission. The notion was whispered cautiously in private conversations, carefully phrased in papers as anomalous luminosity patterns. Could the glowing lines be a sign of structure beneath the surface? Could they indicate channels or circuits carrying energy or information in ways we could not yet decipher? No evidence confirmed this, yet the patterns teased the imagination. The lines sometimes traced along its jagged edges, appearing almost like veins of energy. In photographs, the glow seemed to outline fractures or cavities, illuminating parts of the object that otherwise vanished into shadow. Even without proof of intent, the light appeared alive. Observers tried every method to quantify it. Multi-wavelength studies measured emissions across visible, infrared, and ultraviolet ranges. Every attempt produced anomalies. In infrared, 3I Atlas occasionally appeared warmer than expected. In ultraviolet, Strange spikes of light suggested surface reactions inconsistent with normal rock or ice. The more instruments probed, the stranger the behavior became. It was as if each tool glimpsed a different truth, and none could capture the whole. The pulsing moments were perhaps the most unsettling. Unlike natural reflections, which vary smoothly with rotation and surface angle, these flashes appeared sharp, abrupt, and irregular. They did not correlate neatly with the object's spin or its position relative to the sun. Observers began to wonder, could these pulses be communication? Or at least, the trace of a system designed to emit light in a controlled way? Many scientists immediately dismissed the idea as fanciful. Yet the possibility lingered in conversations at the edges of research. The universe occasionally challenges our assumptions by presenting phenomena that mimic intention without revealing cause. Amateur astronomers, too, joined the scrutiny. Social media platforms were filled with enhanced images of the glowing object. Artists painted it as a shard of neon glass or a crystalline spacecraft. The public imagination ran ahead of explanation, drawn by the eerie beauty of shifting green and teal light. In doing so, they captured something essential: 3I. Atlas was no longer a simple object of study. It was an experience, something that forced observers to confront the unknown in real time. For Mars, the glow cast strange shadows. The red dust beneath the object reflected faintly in greenish hues, creating surreal images of light across a barren landscape. In these moments, the planet became a stage, highlighting the strangeness of the visitor. The interplay of color and shadow made the encounter cinematic, almost painterly. It was science and art intertwined, fact and imagination converging. In the quiet of observatories, debates raged. Was this light a natural phenomenon, like ionized gases dancing unpredictably? Or was it evidence of an unknown physical process, something entirely outside our experience? And beneath the scientific discussions lay a quieter, unspoken feeling: awe. The object was beautiful, alien, and impossible to fully grasp. Every flicker reminded researchers that the universe was not simply a collection of predictable rules, but a place of infinite subtlety, of patterns that might never resolve. The uncertainty extended to measurements of intensity as well. One instrument would report a peak in brightness, another would see a trough. Even when observing at the same wavelength, results could vary from minute to minute. It was as though 3I Atlas resisted full scrutiny, concealing its secrets in the very light it emitted. This gave rise to a subtle philosophical tension. Perhaps our instruments, as precise as they are, cannot fully translate the universe's language. Perhaps 3I Atlas is teaching us something about the limits of observation, that light itself can be a riddle. And yet, in its glow there was a message, however opaque. The universe is stranger than we imagine. That even near a familiar neighbor like Mars, in the part of the sky we can monitor, interstellar visitors can surprise us with behaviors we do not understand. That observation is not always mastery. That seeing is not always knowing. By the end of the first week of detailed monitoring, the object had settled into a pattern too irregular to categorize. Scientists cataloged pulses, glows, and shifts with careful notation, yet no predictive model emerged. Every answer generated new questions. 3I Atlas remained luminous, elusive, defiant. If the light was alive with mystery, its next anomaly challenged even more basic assumptions: mass and density. Instruments suggested that the object's weight and inertia did not always align with its observed acceleration, hinting at a presence that was somehow lighter or differently composed than expected. Humans have long tried to listen to the cosmos. We point our radio telescopes toward the heavens and wait for whispers, pulses, static, anything that might hint at distant worlds, distant minds. Even in silence, the act of listening is a kind of communion. It tells the universe, we are here and we are paying attention. When 3I Atlas passed near Mars, astronomers extended this habit. They trained radio telescopes toward the object, hoping to detect natural emissions, thermal radiation, ionized gases, or perhaps the subtle hum of interaction with solar wind. And, just in case, they also listened for the impossible, patterns that might hint at intelligence. The first observations were predictably quiet. Nothing registered beyond the background noise of space. No steady signals, no encoded bursts, no artificial pulse. In conventional terms, 3I Atlas was silent. Yet in the silence, anomalies emerged. These anomalies were faint, almost imperceptible. At certain frequencies, just above the threshold of randomness, tiny fluctuations appeared. Patterns in amplitude, minuscule repetitions, irregular sequences that could not be explained entirely by instrumental error or cosmic interference. They were almost nothing. Yet in the world of radio astronomy, almost nothing can be extraordinary. Scientists faced a dilemma. Were these anomalies simply statistical noise, the natural chaos of the universe masquerading as pattern? Or were they signals deliberately hidden within the murmur of space? Careful analyses yielded no definitive answers. The fluctuations did not repeat with sufficient regularity to confirm them as signals. And yet, when researchers examined the patterns visually, a strange sense of rhythm emerged, a subtle cadence that teased recognition. It was as if the object were whispering, and the whispering was nearly inaudible, almost lost in the vast silence of the cosmos. Some astronomers, trained to see order in chaos, began to catalog the patterns meticulously. Each tiny anomaly was recorded, time-stamped, and compared across observatories. They mapped frequency, amplitude, and duration, creating graphs that resembled the squiggles of a seismograph or the heartbeat of an unknown organism. Other teams, skeptical by nature, cautioned against overinterpretation. Random noise looks like pattern if you want it to, they reminded colleagues. But even in the caution, there was fascination. Patterns of such subtlety rarely appear without reason, at least not in human experience. The speculation that followed was cautious, measured, yet impossible to ignore. Some posited that 3I Atlas might contain cavities or channels that could produce faint electromagnetic emissions through natural processes, piezoelectric effects, interactions with the solar wind, or friction from dust particles sliding along jagged surfaces. Others suggested something more provocative. Could the object itself be transmitting, intentionally or otherwise? Could the faint, nearly imperceptible sequences be a kind of cosmic Morse code, designed to be detected only by patient observers with instruments capable of extraordinary sensitivity? No one could say. And that uncertainty, more than anything else, made the silence profound. Meanwhile, amateurs and independent researchers began to contribute. High-sensitivity radio arrays in remote locations monitored the object continuously, some using software capable of detecting signals below conventional thresholds. Their reports often contradicted each other, some noting faint patterns, others finding none at all. The disagreement only fueled curiosity. The object seemed to resist observation, not just physically, but statistically, slipping beneath thresholds that instruments and humans alike could fully measure. It was also a philosophical challenge. In our quest to hear the universe, what qualifies as signal? At what point does pattern become meaning? And when confronted with an object that defies classification, do we impose narratives upon randomness, or recognize that perhaps silence itself is a message? In the quiet rooms of observatories, these questions became as important as any measurement. Scientists found themselves meditating on uncertainty, on thresholds, on the limits of perception. They spoke in careful tones, acknowledging that the universe communicates in ways we may never fully understand. For a brief period, the anomalies inspired public fascination. Articles speculated about alien probes, hidden transmissions, and interstellar messages. Yet even as excitement grew, the truth remained that nothing had been detected conclusively. And yet, the anomalies persisted. Fleeting, subtle, almost imperceptible, they haunted the data. They were a reminder that 3I Atlas was not merely a rock drifting through space, but an object that challenged our assumptions, teased our instruments, and evoked wonder without offering clarity. The soundless signals also had a poetic effect. In a universe dominated by vast silence, even a near imperceptible ripple is profound. To detect anomalies at the edge of perception is to confront both the limits of science and the breadth of imagination. For those tracking 3I Atlas, each tiny blip in the radio spectrum was a heartbeat in the void, a ghostly rhythm echoing across millions of miles. It was a reminder that in the cosmos, presence does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers, almost imperceptibly, demanding patience and attention. In the end, the object remained silent. No coherent messages, no clear patterns, no declaration of origin. Yet the anomalies, these subtle deviations, were enough to sustain wonder. They reminded observers that the universe is neither simple nor fully knowable, that an object can pass through our system, interact with light and energy, and leave traces that defy immediate explanation. 3I Atlas had spoken without words. It had transmitted without intention. It had left a record in the quiet tremors of the radio spectrum. And for those patient enough to listen, that was message enough. If its sound was nearly imperceptible, its motion and structure were no less enigmatic. For the more closely astronomers modeled the object's trajectory, the more the deviations suggested subtle forces and perhaps an internal structure that conventional physics could barely explain. Since the dawn of civilization, humans have looked upward and told stories about the lights that move across the sky. The Babylonians charted stars with meticulous care, noting comets as omens of change. Ancient Chinese astronomers recorded guest stars, wandering sparks that portended triumph or disaster. For the Greeks, the heavens were a theater where gods, titans, and celestial beings enacted dramas that shaped human destiny. In those stories, every movement had meaning. Every flash, every anomaly was read as a message. The cosmos was not random. It was alive with narrative. And now, here in the 21st century, we encounter 3I Atlas. By all measures, it is a natural object, a fragment of some distant system drifting across interstellar space. Yet, in its irregular light, its puzzling shape, and its subtle anomalies, it evokes a feeling remarkably similar to the myths of old. That the heavens are watching, that wandering objects carry significance beyond their material presence. Perhaps it is merely coincidence, the alignment of circumstance and imagination. Yet even scientists, trained to value data above story, feel a faint echo of awe when they describe its jagged edges, its flickering glows, its inexplicable drift. The ancients might have called it a messenger. The Babylonians might have interpreted its passage as an omen. The Greeks might have seen it as a shard of a titan, hurled across the cosmos in a tale of pride and punishment. In every era, humanity has sought to attach meaning to the unknown, to bridge the gap between comprehension and wonder. 3I Atlas fits naturally into this pattern, a modern harbinger disguised as a rock, or perhaps something more. Its name alone, invoking the Atlas of myth, hints at burdens and strength, carrying weight beyond physical mass. It is as though our language, our mythology, cannot resist reading purpose into the trajectory of an interstellar stranger. Scientific inquiry and myth-making are often thought of as opposites, one rational, the other imaginative. But in this case, they converge. The data, the irregular light curves, the anomalies in trajectory, the glowing surface lines, cannot fully explain the object's presence. In the gaps between what is measurable and what is comprehensible, the mind reaches for narrative. This is where myth finds its place. It provides a framework for confronting uncertainty. Just as ancient cultures interpreted the unpredictable comets as messages from the heavens, we too interpret 3I Atlas, not merely as rock or ice, but as a symbol, a reflection of our own curiosity, fear, and desire for understanding. Consider Mars, the silent witness. In myth, Mars was the god of war, a sentinel observing conflict and courage. Now, in its stark red terrain, 3I Atlas passes, casting glimmers of green and teal across dust and craters. The juxtaposition feels poetic, almost narrative. A lonely planet observes a lonely traveler. A celestial drama unfolds in silence, yet it resonates deeply with stories that have existed for millennia. Even modern instruments, with their precise measurements and algorithms, cannot erase this resonance. We record its light, its spectrum, its trajectory, but still, the mind seeks meaning beyond numbers. Perhaps this is the oldest human instinct, to find significance in wandering lights, to imagine stories behind the motions of the cosmos. In a sense, 3I Atlas is a bridge. It connects the rigor of science with the yearning of human imagination. It challenges the idea that data alone is enough, reminding us that interpretation, context, and wonder are equally vital. And yet, the myths do not trivialize the science. Rather, they frame it in a context that humans can relate to. The flickering green light, the irregular motion, the unclassifiable structure, all are facts. But the echo of myth transforms them into experience. We no longer see only a rock passing through space. We see a story unfolding, a modern reflection of timeless human fascination with the unknown. Perhaps, in some deep sense, all interstellar visitors carry this dual identity. They are both objects and ideas. They are phenomena and symbols. The observer cannot separate the two. The scientific description informs the imagination, and the imagination illuminates the meaning of the data. 3I Atlas reminds us that the cosmos is vast and unknowable, yet intimately linked to our desire to understand. Ancient civilizations looked skyward and saw portents. We look through telescopes and see anomalies, but the response is the same: wonder, curiosity, a quiet recognition that some mysteries are meant to be contemplated rather than solved. As the object drifts past Mars, casting faint shadows and glows across the silent red surface, we are left with a profound question. Are we witnessing merely an interstellar rock, or the modern incarnation of an age-old impulse to read stories in the sky? The answer may be irrelevant. The significance lies not only in what the object is, but in how it makes us feel. Tiny observers in a vast universe, connecting the empirical with the mythic, the measurable with the imagined. If myth and memory frame our perception, the next step is to confront the physical reality of 3I Atlas itself, its unusual rotations, its tumbling, and the almost deliberate irregularities that defy easy categorization. In that dance, the object begins to reveal secrets encoded not in story, but in motion. In the quiet of observatories, debate unfolds like a slow-motion dance. 3I Atlas is, at once, a scientific marvel and a philosophical puzzle. Each measurement, each observation seems to push us closer to understanding, and yet, paradoxically, reveals just how little we truly know. At the heart of the debate is a simple question: what is it? The first and most conventional explanation is that 3I Atlas is a natural fragment, a shard flung from some distant star system, torn from a planet, asteroid, or comet by a cosmic collision. In this view, its elongated shape, irregular brightness, and subtle glows are the results of natural processes, impact fractures, surface ice sublimation, and space weathering over millions of years. This interpretation has merit. After all, the universe is violent, and interstellar debris must exist. Oumuamua, our first confirmed interstellar visitor, could have been similar, a fragment from a distant system, shaped by forces beyond our observation. And yet, the natural explanation struggles to account for every anomaly. The unusual brightness fluctuations, the apparent hollowing suggested by density measurements, and the luminous surface lines resist conventional modeling. Then comes the more provocative hypothesis: artificial origin. Could 3I Atlas be a probe, a relic of intelligence from another star? The argument is subtle, built on the convergence of anomalies, shape, reflectivity, trajectory deviations, and faint electromagnetic whispers. Some point to the object's long, narrow form, recalling a deliberately engineered structure. Others highlight the pulsing glows along its surface, resembling conduits or energy channels. Even the near-perfect absence of debris in certain observations hints at something maintained or designed rather than fractured randomly. In this framework, 3i Atlas becomes more than a wandering rock. It is a message, a machine, or at least a remnant of an intelligence whose motives and origin remain unknowable. Yet even this hypothesis is fraught with uncertainty. No direct evidence of artificiality exists. No signal confirms intelligence. No recognizable design can be unambiguously identified. We are left with hints, patterns at the edge of perception, and an imagination willing to entertain possibilities beyond conventional science. The artificial explanation, though tantalizing, confronts the same obstacle as the natural hypothesis: incomplete data. Every anomaly can be interpreted as intentional, but also as chance. Every unusual feature might be evidence of engineering, or the result of processes unfamiliar to earthly experience. And so, between these two poles, a third possibility emerges, a category as unsettling as it is undefined. Perhaps 3i Atlas is neither fully natural nor fully artificial, but something else entirely. A class of objects or phenomena we have yet to recognize. This something else could be a hybrid, natural material reshaped or guided by processes we do not understand, or a natural formation so rare that it mimics the appearance of artificiality. Perhaps it is an interstellar relic of physics operating under extreme conditions, creating forms and behaviors beyond our current models. Each explanation carries its own gravity. One challenges our understanding of cosmic processes, another challenges our place in the universe, and the third challenges the limits of human imagination itself. Scientists grapple with this uncertainty with careful precision. Conferences are filled with simulations, equations, and debates over probability. Papers are published with careful caveats. Consistent with natural origin, cannot rule out artificiality. Anomalies remain unexplained. Each phrase is measured, designed to convey both curiosity and restraint. Yet outside the scientific halls, speculation flourishes. Popular articles hint at alien visitors. Online discussions imagine vessels, messages, and distant civilizations watching in silence. Artists paint glowing shards drifting across Mars, and writers craft stories in which 3i Atlas is the harbinger of cosmic revelation. The dichotomy between rigorous science and imagination mirrors the object itself. One form in many interpretations, tangible yet mysterious. One of the most compelling tensions lies in its trajectory. The small deviations from predicted orbits are consistent with natural phenomena, like outgassing or radiation pressure, but only barely. The behavior is precise enough to make some observers wonder if it is purposeful and irregular enough to resist firm categorization. Its luminosity, too, defies easy explanation. Natural phenomena produce light through reflection or ionization, but the pulsating patterns, the surface lines that seem almost deliberate, challenge these models. Could natural physics alone create such features? Or are we glimpsing signs of structure, design, or processes beyond earthly experience? In contemplating these possibilities, it is tempting to seek closure. One answer that explains everything. But closure remains elusive. Each new piece of data brings more questions. Each anomaly can be interpreted multiple ways. The more we study 3i Atlas, the less we understand it. A cosmic riddle that grows richer with each observation. It is here that philosophy enters the discussion. How do we approach the unknown? Do we insist on classification, on neat labels of natural or artificial? Or do we accept the ambiguity, allowing ourselves to sit with uncertainty and wonder? 3i Atlas forces a confrontation not only with the limits of knowledge, but with the limits of human expectation. Perhaps the most profound aspect of this debate is its reflection on humanity as place in the universe. If 3I Atlas is natural, we witness the extraordinary creativity of cosmic forces, gravity, collisions, radiation, shaping objects that baffle our understanding. If it is artificial, we are reminded that intelligence may not be unique to Earth, and that the cosmos might be populated with minds and machines beyond our reckoning. And if it is something entirely new, our own comprehension may be too primitive to classify the phenomena we encounter. All three outcomes inspire humility. All three inspire wonder. In this way, 3I Atlas becomes more than a visitor, it becomes a mirror. It reflects our curiosity, our imagination, and our limits. It invites us to question assumptions, to weigh evidence carefully, and to confront mysteries without immediate resolution. It is a challenge, a puzzle, a revelation. It is a reminder that the universe is not obliged to make sense to us, and that the act of observing, of wondering, is itself a profound experience. As scientists model trajectories, analyze light curves, and scan for faint anomalies, one fact remains certain. 3 Atlas defies simple explanation. Every theory, every model, every hypothesis has its strengths and flaws. And so the uncertainty persists, deepening with every observation, every reflection, every pulse of light that escapes its surface. We are left with the most human of responses: awe. Awe at the vastness of space. Awe at the strangeness of the cosmos. Awe at the glimpse of something that refuses to be contained by our knowledge or imagination. 3I Atlas is, in every sense, a riddle written in stone, light, and motion. A question without a final answer, a mystery without closure, a reminder that the universe is larger, stranger, and more wondrous than we can yet comprehend. If the debate lingers between natural and artificial, the next chapter will examine the object's passage past Mars itself, exploring the subtle gravitational interactions and fleeting proximity that make this encounter unique in the history of interstellar visitors. Among the vastness of interstellar space, the idea of permanence is fleeting. Stars are born and die over eons. Planets collide and are cast into exile. And somewhere, perhaps, civilizations rise and fall, leaving traces so faint that they are nearly impossible to detect. When we examine 3I Atlas, it is natural to ask, could it be more than rock or ice? Could it be, in some way, a relic, an artifact of a long-extinct civilization, a shard of technology drifting silently through the void? The concept is both thrilling and unsettling. Consider our own fragile existence. Civilizations on Earth have risen, flourished, and vanished in mere centuries, mere minutes on a cosmic timescale. If advanced societies elsewhere follow similar patterns, it is conceivable that remnants of their ingenuity now wander the galaxy, disconnected from their creators, preserved only in form and energy. 3I Atlas might be such a remnant. Its elongated shape, apparent hollowing, and faint surface glows could be the product of purposeful design, or at least the result of technologies that once had a function. Perhaps it was a probe, a vessel, or even debris from a catastrophic event, a civilization's message to the stars, carried unknowingly across light years. This idea invites haunting questions. How many civilizations have risen and vanished before we even had the capacity to detect them? How many messages, tools, or fragments of technology drift eternally, unseen, while their creators are long gone? Interstellar space is vast, and time stretches almost beyond comprehension. The chances that 3I Atlas is a relic are slim, yet the very possibility evokes wonder and humility. It forces us to confront not only the mystery of the object itself, but the fragility of intelligence and the impermanence of achievement on a cosmic scale. If we entertain this idea, then every detail of the object acquires new significance. Its peculiar light emissions could be residual energy, decades or centuries old, leaking into space. Its tumbling and irregular rotation might reflect functional systems no longer powered, or structures designed to move in ways we barely recognize. Even its trajectory could hint at purpose, a path set long ago, one that brings it, briefly, within the gaze of observers like us. Yet these interpretations must be held lightly. In the absence of definitive evidence, the notion of a ghost civilization remains speculation. And yet, speculation of this kind is a natural extension of wonder. It is the human mind grappling with the enormity of possibility. The idea of lost civilizations also reframes our perception of time. Human history is brief, our records fragile. 3I Atlas reminds us that the universe does not operate on human scales. The events that shaped its formation, collisions, ejections, cosmic forces, may have occurred millions or billions of years ago. Any civilization associated with it may have been ancient, vanished long before we learned to read the stars. In that context, 3I Atlas is a ghost, a silent witness carrying evidence of something once purposeful, now incomprehensible. Its passage is a reminder that intelligence is ephemeral, that even the most remarkable achievements may vanish without trace. This perspective also challenges anthropocentric assumptions. Humanity often imagines interstellar contact as immediate. Ships meeting, messages exchanged, civilizations encountering one another. Yet 3I Atlas suggests a more somber possibility, that we are not alone, but that other intelligences may have existed only to vanish before contact could occur. That the universe may be filled with echoes and relics, not interlocutors. It is a humbling thought. For every object like 3I Atlas, there may be countless more, invisible and distant, bearing witness to civilizations that never knew us, and which we may never know. And yet, in this very uncertainty, there is a certain poetry. The shard drifts past Mars, unseen by human eyes until our telescopes capture it. The glowing lines, the irregular rotations, the faint anomalies, all serve as a bridge between our curiosity and the vast, indifferent cosmos. We may never know if it once carried intelligence, but the question itself expands our imagination, reminding us that discovery is as much about asking the right questions as it is about finding answers. Perhaps, in a way, the ghost of civilization is a mirror to our own potential fragility. We are only beginning to understand our place in the galaxy and to consider that our own creations, our technologies, our probes, even our records, might one day drift alone, silent witnesses to a universe that continues long after we are gone. 3I Atlas, then, is more than a visitor. It is a reminder of cosmic scale, of impermanence, and of the delicate thread upon which intelligence exists. Its passage invites reflection, a meditation on what it means to rise, to create, and to leave traces in a universe that rarely pauses for notice. As it moves silently through space, 3I Atlas becomes a ghost of what might have been, a fragment of possibility, a question suspended in the void, and we, observers on a small blue planet, are left to wonder. If 3I Atlas may carry echoes of a lost civilization, the next mystery lies in its energy emissions. Strange, patterned, and inconsistent, they challenge our understanding of physics and hint at forces or processes beyond our current knowledge. Life, as we understand it, is fragile and specific. It requires chemistry, water, energy, and an environment capable of sustaining complex processes. Earthly biology obeys rules that we have spent centuries decoding. Yet as we observe 3I Atlas, those rules begin to feel incomplete, almost insufficient. What if life does not require the conditions we know? What if the universe harbors forms of existence that defy our definitions, living not as we do, but in ways entirely alien? The idea is radical, yet tantalizing. Some scientists pondering the object's behavior, the pulsing lights, the subtle deviations in trajectory, the almost rhythmic emissions, have asked quietly, could 3I Atlas itself be alive? Not in a biological sense, not like anything on Earth, but alive in a way that is as alien as the stars themselves. It might be a mineral-based life form, its internal structure capable of processing energy and responding to external stimuli over astronomical timescales. Or perhaps it is plasma-based, a being of light and charged particles, interacting with solar wind and radiation as a living organism interacts with its environment. Consider its irregular light emissions. For decades, we have studied bioluminescence on Earth: fireflies, deep-sea organisms, fungi. These life forms use light to communicate, to attract, or to signal presence. Could the shifting glows of 3I Atlas be a form of cosmic bioluminescence? A pulse not meant to convey information to humans, but a manifestation of a life process, subtle, elegant, and beyond comprehension? Even its tumbling motion and apparent self-correction in trajectory might be interpreted as responsiveness. Perhaps it senses forces acting upon it, adjusting minutely in ways that optimize energy absorption, exposure, or interaction with the cosmic environment. These are not movements we typically associate with rocks. They are subtle behaviors, almost intentional. Some theorists stretch this further, suggesting that 3I Atlas might exist in a state between what we call living and non-living. Like viruses, which occupy a liminal space on Earth, or like Earth's extreme extremophiles, which thrive in heat, radiation, or pressure that would kill ordinary life. 3I Atlas may be a form of life that thrives not in water or air, but in the vacuum of interstellar space. Its body could be composed of materials we consider inert, yet structured in a way that allows energy absorption, processing, and subtle responses. Its luminous lines may be channels for energy movement, comparable to circulatory or neural networks, yet operating on a timescale and medium alien to terrestrial experience. If 3I Atlas is alive, it challenges not only biology, but our very understanding of consciousness and perception. Does life require intention? Does it require a brain, a mind, or awareness as we know it? Perhaps not. Perhaps awareness, responsiveness, and adaptation can exist in forms that are distributed across minerals, radiation, or plasma, unfolding slowly across light years. The implications are staggering. It means that life is not rare, it is vast, hidden, and inscrutable. That the universe may teem with entities whose existence is subtle, whose behavior is almost imperceptible, and whose very definitions of life transcend our imagination. Some skeptics, of course, caution against anthropomorphism. Rocks do not think, light does not feel, motion does not imply purpose. But these skeptics also acknowledge a humbling fact. The more we observe 3I Atlas, the less it conforms to expectation. Every anomaly, every irregularity invites speculation that is, at minimum, scientifically and philosophically legitimate. After all, life on Earth has taught us humility. Extremophiles flourish in boiling springs, under kilometers of ice, in the crushing depths of the ocean. Each discovery challenges our definitions of where life can exist. And if life can thrive under such extremes on Earth, why not in the vast, radiation-filled emptiness of interstellar space, where time itself stretches across millions of years? Imagine observing such a being, not as a biologist would observe a rabbit or a fish, but as a cosmic anthropologist, studying a creature whose medium is energy and rock, whose perception spans years or decades of movement, and whose form communicates subtly with the forces around it. Its light pulses would be its heartbeat, its rotation, a gesture, its trajectory, a conversation with gravity, radiation, and solar wind. It would be alive in a rhythm that transcends human time, yet intimately connected to the cosmic environment. And we, fleeting observers on a small blue planet, would glimpse only a shadow of that life, tantalized by hints too subtle to fully grasp. This perspective also reframes the object's anomalies in orbital mechanics and luminosity. Perhaps the deviations are not evidence of design, nor mere randomness, but behavior, a living entity adjusting its position and exposure in response to forces we can measure but barely understand. The pulsing lights may not be signals for us, They may be metabolic rhythms, adaptive responses, or simple expressions of energy flow. In this light, every measurement becomes more than data. It becomes an observation of existence. Every irregularity, a trace of life operating on scales and in ways far beyond terrestrial understanding. Even if this interpretation cannot be confirmed, the very contemplation changes us. It reminds us that our understanding of life is provisional. That intelligence, adaptation, and vitality may exist in forms so alien that our instruments and concepts struggle to perceive them. That the universe may host not just rocks and stars, but entities, living, responsive, inscrutable, floating silently through interstellar voids. 3i Atlas, then, is no longer simply a visitor. It is a possibility, a question, a challenge to our assumptions. And in imagining that it might be alive, we confront the profound truth that life may be far more abundant, far stranger, and far more mysterious than we have ever dared to conceive. If 3i Atlas could be alive, its next peculiarity, the energy anomalies and luminous surface patterns, may be expressions of that vitality, suggesting processes that are neither mechanical nor random, but a form of cosmic existence entirely beyond earthly imagination. In the silence of space, we often see not only what exists, but what we carry within ourselves. 3i Atlas, in all its strangeness, has become more than a scientific curiosity. It has become a mirror, reflecting human hopes, fears, and imagination back at us. The object drifts across the void, indifferent to our observation, yet it evokes an astonishing spectrum of emotion and projection. Observers and theorists alike have noticed this phenomenon. Some see danger, a harbinger of cosmic threat, an alien intelligence whose presence challenges the primacy of Earth. Others see opportunity, a probe carrying knowledge, or a relic of an advanced civilization offering insight into the vast possibilities of interstellar existence. And some see only mystery, a reminder that the universe is infinitely stranger than we can comprehend. It is, in essence, a cosmic Rorschach test. The irregular light pulses, the jagged surface, the deviations from expected motion. Each anomaly becomes a canvas. When human perception seeks pattern, even faint signals or subtle glows can be interpreted in countless ways. The same green flashes that fascinate one observer may terrify another. The subtle tumbling that intrigues scientists becomes ominous in popular imagination. Our interpretations are inseparable from our emotions and cultural narratives. In myth, the heavens have always reflected our anxieties. Comets signaled doom, eclipses inspired awe, and celestial omens shaped human history. Today, 3i Atlas carries the same symbolic weight, even in a scientific age. The fear is not merely abstract, it is deeply existential. The object challenges our understanding of the universe and our place within it. Its anomalies suggest forces we do not fully comprehend, forms we cannot classify, and possibilities that brush against the edges of imagination. Each unanswered question evokes uncertainty, and uncertainty often manifests as fear. Yet this fear is intertwined with wonder. To confront 3i Atlas is to confront our limitations. Its strangeness reminds us that the universe does not conform to expectation, and that human knowledge, while vast, is provisional. In that realization, we see our vulnerability and our audacity to observe, to question, to reach for understanding, despite knowing that certainty may never come. Human projection also shapes our interpretation of potential intelligence. If one considers the object artificial or alive, the mind supplies narrative. Who built it? What purpose might it serve? Is it a probe, a message, a sentinel, or a relic of a civilization lost to time? In imagining these possibilities, we reveal not the nature of 3i Atlas, but the nature of ourselves, our curiosity, our caution, and our capacity for wonder and fear in equal measure. The same is true for hypotheses of danger. Consider how quickly speculation turns to existential concern, Could an intelligent object pose a threat? Could its presence signal observation, intervention, or judgment? Even in the absence of evidence, such fears emerge naturally, arising from the human tendency to anthropomorphize, to assign intent to the unknown. Yet not all projections are dark. Some observers read hope into 3I Atlas. Its passage might suggest that the universe contains not only danger, but possibility. That interstellar travel is achievable, that intelligence may be more widespread than assumed, and that the cosmos, despite its vastness, may be not wholly indifferent to life. These interpretations, too, are reflections, mirrors of optimism and longing. In every case, the object functions as a canvas for human consciousness. Its physical properties, shape, light, motion, remain constant, yet perception molds them into something larger than themselves. We do not see 3I Atlas purely. We see ourselves projected onto it, filtered through centuries of myth, imagination, and cultural expectation. This interplay between objective observation and subjective projection is both humbling and enlightening. It reminds us that the act of studying the universe is as much an inward journey as an outward one. To gaze upon 3I Atlas is to confront not only cosmic mystery, but our own assumptions, desires, and apprehensions. Even the most disciplined scientific teams are not immune. In discussions of its possible origin, natural, artificial, or alive, scientists find themselves grappling with narratives that arise spontaneously, despite efforts to remain neutral. The mind seeks story and meaning, even when evidence is incomplete. Perhaps this is the most profound lesson 3I Atlas offers. Its strangeness forces reflection on the human condition. How do we interpret the unknown? How do we balance curiosity with caution, wonder with skepticism? The object is indifferent to our questions, yet in its silence, it demands that we ask them. In this sense, 3I Atlas is not merely an interstellar object, it is a mirror of consciousness. It reveals the contours of imagination and fear, the tension between knowledge and uncertainty, and the enduring human desire to find meaning in a universe that may offer none. As it drifts further, passing silently through the solar system, the projections it evokes will inevitably evolve. Future observers may see new patterns, new signals, or new anomalies. Their interpretations will reflect contemporary hopes, fears, and cultural narratives, just as ours do now. And through this process, the object will continue to function as a Rorschach test, a silent, drifting canvas for human thought and emotion. In contemplating 3I Atlas, we recognize that the universe is vast, strange, and often indifferent. Yet it also serves as a mirror, reflecting the richness of human imagination, the depth of our curiosity, and the shadows of our fears. The object is both unknown and intimately familiar, a cosmic paradox, an enigma suspended between reality and perception. If 3I Atlas serves as a mirror of human projection, its next revelations lie in the subtle chemical signatures detected along its surface, clues that hint at composition, history, and perhaps origins, challenging the boundary between natural and extraordinary phenomena. Science often thrives not on certainty, but on mystery. For every question answered, new ones emerge, sometimes deeper, stranger, and more transformative than the ones before. In this way, anomalies like 3I Atlas serve not as frustrations, but as catalysts. They remind us that discovery is not about neatly closing a case, but about opening doors into realms of possibility we never imagined. Throughout history, the greatest leaps in understanding have come not from what was clear, but from what was puzzling. The wandering motions of planets once defied explanation until they revealed the laws of gravity. The strange glow of uranium in the dark gave rise to nuclear physics. The flickering of distant stars, once thought to be mere imperfections of observation, unveiled entire worlds orbiting other suns. And now, 3I Atlas, silent, luminous, and unpredictable, takes its place in this tradition of anomalies that propel us forward. The irregularities of its orbit, the pulsing glows, the hints of structure that seem too ordered to be random. All of these confound expectation. Yet in their refusal to fit the patterns we know, they challenge us to refine our methods, sharpen our instruments, and expand our theories. What once felt impossible suddenly becomes a frontier waiting to be mapped. In this sense, uncertainty is not a dead end, it is a beginning. Each unexplained phenomenon becomes a seed of wonder, a reminder that the universe is larger, stranger, and more intricate than the frameworks we have built around it. Scientists observing 3I Atlas often speak less of frustration than of exhilaration. The data may be incomplete, but the possibilities it evokes are endless. Could subtle forces like radiation pressure be at play? Could its surface chemistry interact with solar winds in ways unknown? Could its composition belong to a category of matter or structure not yet catalogued in physics or astronomy? Each question, though unanswered, fuels a new line of research. Each speculation, though provisional, sharpens human ingenuity. The unknown becomes a teacher, guiding science not with clear answers, but with the profound discipline of curiosity. There is a quiet poetry in this process. Science is often portrayed as the conquest of ignorance, a march towards certainty. Yet at its heart, it is the art of living with uncertainty, of framing it into questions, and of accepting that some mysteries may remain unsolved for centuries. Wonder, in this sense, is not the opposite of knowledge. It is its engine. When astronomers track 3I Atlas through the night sky, they do more than measure. They dream. They imagine worlds and civilizations, forces and structures that may or may not exist. And in that act of imagination, tethered to discipline and observation, science evolves. It is worth reflecting on how this dance between wonder and inquiry has shaped humanity's place in the cosmos. We once believed Earth was the center of creation. Then anomalies in planetary motion revealed otherwise. We once thought our galaxy was the whole of the universe. The faint smudges of light proved us wrong. Each time, an anomaly broke the boundaries of our understanding, and in doing so, expanded our vision. 3I Atlas offers the same gift. Its refusal to conform is not a failure of knowledge, but an invitation to grow. It pushes the edges of astronomy, physics, and even philosophy. It compels us to ask not only what is it, but what might life, matter, and existence itself be in forms we have yet to imagine. There is also a humility in this pursuit. For all our instruments and equations, we are reminded that the universe remains elusive, veiled in layers of mystery. We may never fully understand 3I Atlas. Its secrets may slip away as it drifts beyond the reach of our telescopes, leaving behind only fragments of data and lingering questions. And yet, even this is progress. The unanswered questions will echo through future generations of scientists, inspiring new instruments, new theories, and perhaps one day, answers that seem unthinkable now. The act of not knowing becomes a legacy, a gift passed forward in the chain of discovery. In this way, 3I Atlas embodies the paradox of science. It is the pursuit of knowledge that thrives on wonder, the embrace of uncertainty as a path to truth. Each anomaly is both a problem and a promise. Each unexplained flicker in the night sky is a reminder that we are participants in a story larger than ourselves. To gaze at 3I Atlas is to feel the humility of ignorance and the exhilaration of discovery. It is to acknowledge that we do not yet understand, and to celebrate that not knowing as the very thing that propels us forward. If science finds growth in wonder, then philosophy finds reflection in mystery. Beyond the data and equations, 3I Atlas invites us to ask deeper questions, not only about what it is, but what its presence means for our understanding of existence itself. Space is vast. In its stillness, the stars stretch endlessly, their light reaching us across gulfs so great that human imagination falters. And yet, amid this ocean of suns and worlds, one question lingers, simple yet profound. If the universe is so full of planets, so abundant in opportunity, why do we hear nothing? This question, known as Fermi's paradox, rests like a quiet weight on the shoulders of science. The stars suggest that life should be common, civilizations frequent, intelligence inevitable. Yet the silence is absolute. No signal, no beacon, no incontrovertible sign of life beyond our world has reached us. Only the faint possibility of anomalies, like Three-Eye Atlas, stirs the stillness. The paradox deepens when we consider probabilities. In our galaxy alone, there are hundreds of billions of stars. Many host planets with inhabitable zones, some rich with water and organic molecules. Given the sheer numbers, the odds seem overwhelming that civilizations must have arisen long before ours, perhaps millions of years ago. If even a fraction had mastered interstellar travel, the galaxy could have been colonized long ago. And yet, nothing. The stars remain mute, as though draped in a cosmic hush. One unsettling idea proposed to resolve this contradiction is the Great Filter. The concept suggests that between the origin of life and the rise of interstellar civilizations lies a nearly impassable barrier. Somewhere along the chain, abiogenesis, complexity, intelligence, technology, survival, something almost always goes wrong. Most life stalls or collapses before reaching the stars. If the Great Filter lies behind us, we are lucky beyond measure. If it lies ahead, our species has yet to face the true test. Nuclear war, ecological collapse, uncontrolled technology, or forces beyond imagination, any could be the silence maker, the filter that ends most civilizations before they can expand outward. From this perspective, Three-Eye Atlas takes on a haunting dimension. What if it is not a messenger, but a remnant? Not a signal of thriving civilizations, but debris from a species that failed to survive its filter. A shard, a fragment, drifting endlessly long after its makers vanished? The possibility chills the imagination. To glimpse it might be to glimpse a future version of ourselves, a warning written not in words, but in silence and stone. Philosophers and scientists alike wrestle with this idea. Perhaps we are alone not because life is rare, but because endurance is rarer still. Civilizations may bloom like brief sparks across the cosmos, bright for a moment, then extinguished. We search for companions, but find only echoes, remnants, or traces carried on objects like Three-Eye Atlas. This interpretation reframes our encounter. The object is no longer just a mystery, it is a possible monument to impermanence. It reminds us that even intelligence and technology may not be enough to escape fragility. The silence of the stars may be the silence of failure. But silence is never a single story. Others argue that civilizations may choose quiet deliberately. Survival may demand discretion in a universe where not all intelligences are benign. A galaxy teeming with life might remain invisible by design, each species hiding from detection. If so, then Three-Eye Atlas could be an accident, a slip of visibility in a cosmos full of concealed presence. Still others suggest we mistake silence for absence. Perhaps communication happens in ways we cannot detect, across spectra or dimensions our instruments cannot yet perceive. In this reading, Three-Eye Atlas is not a remnant, but a reminder that our senses remain primitive, our reach incomplete. And yet the silence persists, patient and implacable. It invites reflection not only on the cosmos, but on ourselves. Humanity stands at a threshold, capable of extraordinary progress, yet vulnerable to forces of our own making. We gaze at Three-Eye Atlas and wonder if its passage reflects not only the mystery of the stars, but the fragility of civilizations. Could we too become silent? Could our artifacts, centuries from now, drift through interstellar voids, mute testaments to ambitions cut short? This thought does not diminish the wonder. Rather, it sharpens it. In contemplating the silence, we confront the urgency of survival. The Great Filter, if real, compels us to ask what must be overcome. It demands wisdom, resilience, and humility. To endure, to thrive, to reach the stars, we must learn to navigate not only the outer universe, but our own inner fragilities. In this sense, 3i Atlas is both riddle and mirror. Its silence, its anomalies, its refusal to conform, each reflects the larger silence that surrounds us. The object becomes not just a visitor, but a question. Is this what remains of others who once looked to the stars? Or is it the faintest whisper that we are not alone, only unready to listen? The silence of the stars is not emptiness. It is a canvas on which we paint our fears, our hopes, and our philosophies. It is a reminder that the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, but rather a challenge to expand our imagination. And so, in watching 3i Atlas drift past Mars, we are not merely studying a rock or a probe or a mystery. We are staring into the silence itself and into the unanswered question of our own survival. If the silence of the stars forces us to reflect on what is missing, the presence of 3i Atlas also draws us toward what remains, the philosophical question of meaning. Beyond science and speculation lies reflection. What does such an encounter reveal about our relationship with the universe itself? When we look at the night sky, we are never truly looking outward alone. The stars, the planets, the drifting objects across the void, each is also a reflection inward, a stage upon which we project our stories, our fears, and our longings. 3i Atlas, with its strange glow and silence, becomes more than a celestial anomaly. It becomes a mirror, reflecting not just what it is, but who we are. From the moment the object was detected, speculation erupted, not just in scientific journals, but in headlines, myths, and whispered conversations. Was it a shard of natural rock, a fragment of alien engineering, or something alive in a form we cannot comprehend? Each answer revealed less about the object itself and more about the people asking the question. To the cautious, 3i Atlas became a harbinger of danger, a potential threat hovering at the edge of Mars. To the hopeful, it became a beacon, perhaps proof that we are not alone, that intelligence elsewhere has left traces for us to discover. To the poetic, it became a metaphor, an omen, a prophecy, a reminder of our own cosmic smallness. What we see, in the end, is filtered through who we are. The mystery is less about its essence and more about our reflection in it. This is the paradox of discovery. Each anomaly in the cosmos serves as a kind of test. How do we respond when the universe refuses to give us answers? Some demand certainty, forcing the object into categories that fit our models. Others embrace the ambiguity, allowing wonder to coexist with doubt. 3i Atlas stands at this intersection, a phenomenon that cannot yet be neatly explained. Its glowing shifts, its silence in radio frequencies, its persistence, these invite interpretation but resist closure. And in that resistance, we glimpse not just an external mystery, but the contours of our own imagination. Throughout history, humanity has encountered mysteries in the sky and turned them into mirrors of the human condition. Ancient peoples saw gods in comets, omens in eclipses, meaning in wandering lights. Later, astronomers and philosophers sought mechanical order, natural law, and physical causes. In every age, the heavens have reflected the shape of our knowledge and the limits of our imagination. 3i Atlas belongs to this lineage. It is our comet, our wandering light, our mystery for the age of space telescopes and interplanetary rovers. It reflects back to us not divine wrath, but scientific yearning, not mythic gods, but the hunger to know if we are alone. Yet the mirror does more than reflect our intellect. It reflects our fragility. When we contemplate 3i Atlas, we cannot help but measure ourselves against it. Its trajectory stretches across millions of years. Its silence dwarfs our brief history. Its persistence outlasts empires. Against this backdrop, humanity appears young, vulnerable, almost fleeting. And yet, in acknowledging that fragility, something profound emerges. We recognize that the very act of wondering, of building instruments, of formulating theories, of staring into the abyss with open eyes, is itself a kind of resilience. Our curiosity, fragile though it may seem, is also the seed of survival. The mirror, then, reflects not only our limits, but also our courage. There is another dimension to the mirror: longing. For centuries, we have carried a quiet ache to know that we are not alone. The absence of evidence has never silenced the dream of companionship among the stars. 3i Atlas, by refusing to reveal its nature, only deepens that ache. In its strangeness, we see the outlines of what we desire: contact, meaning, a place in a wider cosmic story. Perhaps this is the greatest gift of such mysteries. Not that they answer questions, but that they awaken them within us. Not that they confirm our expectations, but that they force us to confront the vastness of what we do not know. In this way, the mirror is not passive. It challenges us, shapes us, and reminds us that curiosity itself is a form of connection to the universe. It is tempting to ask whether 3i Atlas is natural or artificial, alive or inert, a warning or a relic. But perhaps the deeper truth is that its significance does not depend solely on what it is. Its importance lies in what it draws out of us: the wonder, the humility, the persistence of inquiry. The cosmos has always been silent, and yet it speaks, not in words or signals, but in the way its mysteries compel us to grow. The object near Mars is not just a puzzle in orbit. It is a reflection of humanity's restless heart, our refusal to be satisfied with the boundaries of the known. To gaze upon 3i Atlas is to confront both the strangeness of the universe and the strangeness within ourselves. The mirror it holds before us is vast, unblinking, and humbling. And in that reflection, perhaps we see the truest answer to the riddle: not what the object is, but who we are becoming as we struggle to understand it. The object moves on, indifferent to our speculation. But we remain, staring upward, changed by the act of looking. If 3i Atlas is a mirror reflecting humanity's curiosity, then its passage also reminds us of something else: that mystery is not failure, but invitation. The next chapter turns from reflection to forward motion, asking how such encounters shape not just our present understanding, but the future of exploration itself. Science is often imagined as a steady climb toward truth, a ladder where each rung builds upon the last. Yet in practice, the journey is rarely so linear. At times, every new discovery seems to unravel the certainty that came before. With 3i Atlas, this unraveling has become almost poetic. The more closely we observe it, the less we seem to understand. In its first images, 3i Atlas looked like an elongated fragment, stone-like, irregular, a familiar echo of other interstellar visitors. But days later, new data suggested it wasn't a simple rock at all. Its reflectivity shifted in ways that defied geology, shimmering between dull darkness and sudden brightness, as though its skin were alive with change. Was this an artifact of observation, a trick of dust and distance, or was the object itself refusing to be categorized? A fragile thread of certainty was laid down. Perhaps it was rotating. Perhaps its changing light was natural. Yet even before that theory could take hold, another observation contradicted it. Its spin was too slow, its brightness too erratic, the angles inconsistent with mere rotation. What had seemed firm slipped quickly into paradox. The same pattern unfolded with its orbit. At first, calculations placed 3i Atlas on a smooth, hyperbolic path, just as one would expect from an interstellar traveler pulled by gravity alone. But refinement soon revealed tiny deviations, minute drifts that did not conform to prediction. Outgassing, some said, as though it were a comet shedding vapor. But when sensitive instruments searched for signs of gas, they found nothing. No tail, no plume, no evidence of the forces that might explain its restless motion. So another fragile thread was cut. Even its light carried contradiction. Spectrographic analysis showed glows of green, teal, sometimes even faint violet pulses. Ionization of nearby particles, perhaps, or solar wind interacting with exotic minerals. Yet different instruments disagreed. One telescope would register a distinct pulse pattern, while another, at the same time, recorded none. To some, this hinted at instrumental error, a ghost in the data. To others, it was a clue. Maybe the emission was directional, targeted or variable in ways we did not yet grasp. Thus, with every observation, the ground seemed to shift. For the scientists studying 3I Atlas, the experience was both exhilarating and maddening. In science, uncertainty is expected, even welcomed. But here, uncertainty did not narrow with time. It grew. Hypotheses sprouted like branches, only to wither as evidence failed to confirm them. Theories looped back upon themselves, each one undermined by the very data meant to support it. And so, researchers found themselves not climbing a ladder toward truth, but wandering a maze without exit. What was natural one day seemed artificial the next. What was explainable by physics one week dissolved into speculation the next. Philosophers of science have long warned that certainty is an illusion, a fragile thread woven only in retrospect. Perhaps 3I Atlas is simply reminding us of this truth. The cosmos does not owe us clarity. It reveals itself in fragments, in contradictions, in glimpses that suggest as much as they obscure. And yet, there is something uniquely unsettling about this particular visitor. Other anomalies, Oumuamua, Borisov, distant pulsars, eventually bent, however uneasily, toward some plausible explanation. But 3I Atlas resists, even that. It slips from category to category, like a shadow shifting under the light. Is it stone, ice, metal, or something beyond those words? Is it a relic, a wanderer, a messenger, or merely debris caught in our gaze for a fleeting moment? Each attempt to define it seems to collapse upon itself, leaving only more questions. But perhaps the real lesson lies not in pinning down what 3I Atlas is, but in confronting what it means for us when the universe denies us certainty. How do we, a species built on curiosity, live with the possibility that some mysteries will never be solved? Can we accept paradox as part of the cosmic story? Or will we always strain against it, searching for answers that recede the closer we approach? This fragile thread of certainty, stretched thin across the vastness of space, is not only about 3I Atlas. It is about the human condition itself, the desire for patterns, the hunger for explanation, and the resilience to face the unknown when those explanations falter. In the end, the object near Mars may continue to elude us. It may pass from view without ever revealing its truth. Yet its legacy will not vanish with it. For in showing us the limits of knowledge, 3I Atlas also shows us the depth of our persistence. We chase understanding not because the universe is simple, but because it is vast, contradictory, and elusive. And perhaps that is where wonder lives, not in certainty, but in the fragile threads that connect our questions to the silence of the stars. If certainty proves so fragile, then what remains is reflection. As 3I Atlas drifts onward, unresolved, it invites us to look not only at the cosmos, but at ourselves, our myths, our fears, and our fragile search for meaning. The next chapter turns from paradox to philosophy, asking what this silence tells us about the story of humanity within the universe. When the known world fails to explain itself, when evidence tangles into contradiction and certainty slips away, what remains is imagination. It is our bridge across the gulf of ignorance, a fragile yet powerful tool that allows us to leap beyond what data alone can reveal. And yet, like any tool, imagination carries danger. It can illuminate, or it can distort. It can guide us toward discovery, or lure us deeper into illusion. With 3I Atlas, we stand on this very threshold. Too little imagination, and we are blind to the possibilities it represents. Too much, and we risk dissolving fact into fantasy. Since its discovery, imagination has filled the void where knowledge falters. Some envision it as a drifting shard of a long-dead civilization, a relic whispering across cosmic distances. Others picture it alive, perhaps not in flesh and blood, but in a form of life so alien we struggle to name it. Still others insist it is nothing more than an exotic rock, and that all other interpretations are merely the human mind dressing up the unknown in stories. All of these visions begin not with certainty, but with imagination. And herein lies the paradox. Without imagination, we cannot even frame the question of what Three-Eye Atlas might be. But the moment imagination enters, so too does myth, speculation, projection. The line between the two becomes porous, shifting, unstable. Human history has long danced on this threshold. Ancient astronomers who tracked the wandering lights of Venus and Jupiter filled the gaps in their understanding with stories of gods and messengers. For millennia, comets were thought to herald disaster, not because they proved it, but because imagination bound them to patterns of fate. Today, we no longer invoke omens or prophecies, yet the impulse is unchanged. When faced with the luminous glow of Three-Eye Atlas, shifting from green to teal to violet, we ask, is it natural or is it a signal? When confronted with its inexplicable path, we wonder, is it pushed by forces unknown or guided by design? The data resist resolution, and so imagination steps in, not as an enemy of truth, but as its uneasy partner. But imagination is not only a trap, it is also a compass. Many of the greatest scientific breakthroughs began not with observation, but with the audacity to imagine. Before Einstein traced the curvature of space-time in equations, he closed his eyes and imagined riding on a beam of light. Before astronomers discovered exoplanets, they dreamed of other suns with other worlds, daring to think beyond the solar system's boundaries. Might Three-Eye Atlas be another such catalyst? An object so strange that only imagination can frame the questions we must ask? Perhaps it is not the answer that matters most, but the act of reaching beyond what we know. And yet, there is danger in overreaching. Imagination can become a hall of mirrors, reflecting back only our own fears and desires. A cosmic Rorschach test, as we have seen, where one observer sees alien technology, another sees celestial debris, and both are convinced their vision is true. In such mirrors, it is easy to lose sight of the object itself, replacing its reality with the shadows of our own mind. So we are left on a knife's edge, between wonder and delusion, between possibility and projection. To study Three-Eye Atlas is to balance carefully on that threshold, neither dismissing imagination nor surrendering wholly to it. Perhaps this is the deeper significance of the object, not what it is, but where it places us. Standing at the border of the known and the unknown, forced to confront how we think, how we dream, how we construct meaning in the silence of the stars. For in the end, the universe may never tell us what Three-Eye Atlas truly is. It may pass from view, fading into the dark, leaving no answers behind. But in the space it occupied in our collective imagination, it will have left something else. A reminder that mystery itself is not a void, but a threshold. A place where the human mind stretches outward, risking error, daring wonder, touching possibilities that extend beyond the walls of certainty. And so, we return to the paradox. Imagination is both our weakness and our strength. Without it, we remain trapped within the narrow cage of what we already know. With it, we step into danger, risking myth, risking madness. Yet it is precisely at this boundary, where reason falters and imagination begins, that we grow. Three-Eye Atlas, silent and strange, drifting past Mars, has become the very embodiment of that threshold. A reminder that the universe is not obliged to explain itself, and that we are not merely seekers of certainty, but dreamers who must walk the line between fact and possibility. Perhaps that is its greatest gift, not knowledge, not clarity, but the chance to see ourselves reflected in the act of wonder itself. But if imagination is the threshold, then silence is the space beyond it. For when the stars refuse to answer, when even our boldest visions fall short, what remains is the haunting question of why the universe seems so quiet. And it is there, in that silence, that the story of Three-Eye Atlas deepens still further. On the edge of every map lies mystery, In medieval charts, vast seas and uncharted lands were often inked with warnings, "Here be dragons." These words did not claim certainty. They admitted its absence. They stood as a confession that beyond the horizon, knowledge ended and imagination began. Today, our maps extend not just across continents, but across the cosmos. We chart galaxies billions of light years away. We model the births and deaths of stars. Yet for all our progress, the truth remains. Mystery still waits at the edges. And with the arrival of 3I Atlas, it has drifted from the margins of imagination into the very heart of our telescopes. From the beginning, the object reminded us of an uncomfortable truth, that no matter how sophisticated our instruments become, the universe will not surrender all its secrets. We had expected to classify it easily, to label it as comet or asteroid, ice or stone. But 3I Atlas has refused every label we have tried to give it, and perhaps that refusal is the lesson. For centuries, science has thrived not on certainty, but on questions. Galileo did not know what his crude telescope would reveal when he first turned it to the sky. He was prepared to be surprised, and surprise is what he found. The moons of Jupiter, orbiting not the Earth, but their distant parent. That revelation cracked open the fragile order of the cosmos as it was then understood. 3IA Atlas continues this tradition. It is not an answer, it is a question, a shimmering, shifting question written across the dark. There is humility in this realization. We are often tempted to see science as conquest, each discovery a territory won, each solved equation a fortress of certainty. Yet in truth, science is more like a lantern carried into a cavern without end. Each step illuminates a little more, but also reveals how much remains in shadow. And so, 3I Atlas humbles us. It reminds us that for every force we can measure, there are countless others still hidden. For every model we can build, there are realities that resist all modeling. It is the modern equivalent of those medieval seas, marked with dragons not because they were known, but because they were unknown. But unlike the map makers of old, we are not warning travelers away from the mystery. We are being invited into it. Still, humility does not mean defeat. To admit that something lies beyond our grasp is not to surrender, but to grow. The humility of science is not passive. It is active, restless, alive. It thrives in the unknown. Every time 3I Atlas contradicts our theories, it sharpens our tools. Every anomaly drives us to ask deeper questions, to stretch imagination alongside measurement. In this way, the object near Mars is more than a puzzle. It is a teacher. It teaches us that progress is not the erasure of mystery, but its deepening. It teaches us that the cosmos is not a textbook to be completed, but a dialogue, one in which the answers often come disguised as further questions. And there is another lesson, subtler still. When ancient mapmakers wrote, "Here be dragons," they were not merely confessing ignorance, they were acknowledging wonder. The edges of the map were not only dangerous, they were alluring. They stirred the imagination with possibilities of worlds unknown, creatures unseen. So too with 3I Atlas. In its silence, in its contradictions, it stirs us. It reminds us that the cosmos is not a sterile expanse of rocks and radiation, but a place alive with mystery. Its luminous glow, its wandering path, its refusal to fit into categories, all of these are invitations. They whisper to us that reality is wider than our definitions, stranger than our equations, more vast than our maps can hold. Perhaps this is the greatest lesson of all, that we must approach the universe not with arrogance, but with reverence. Not with the expectation that it will conform to our understanding, but with the humility to be reshaped by what we encounter. 3I Atlas is not the first mystery, nor will it be the last. Others will follow, some stranger still, each pulling us further beyond the edges of what we think we know, and each will leave us marked, as explorers have always been, by the double impression of awe and humility. So let us look at this interstellar visitor, not as a failure of knowledge, but as a reminder of its true nature. Science is not the drawing of neat borders around the known. It is the willingness to face the dragons at the edge of the map and to walk forward anyway. For in the end, perhaps the dragons were never warnings at all. Perhaps they were invitations. Invitations to step beyond certainty, into the wild, into the uncharted. To learn, not by conquering mystery, but by dwelling in it. And 3I Atlas, drifting silently near Mars, is one such invitation. A modern dragon, etched not in ink, but in starlight. If every mystery is an invitation, then how we answer reveals more about us than about the cosmos itself. And so, as 3I Atlas fades into the distance, we arrive at our final reflection, not on the object alone, but on what it awakens within us. There are moments in history when humanity pauses, when we set aside the noise of our daily lives and lift our eyes upward. 3I Atlas has become one of those moments. For some, it is just an object, a visitor from deep interstellar space, briefly passing our corner of the solar system before drifting back into the dark. For others, it is a riddle, an artifact too strange to classify, too restless to obey the rules we know. And for still others, it is a mirror, reflecting our hopes, our fears, our imagination. But whatever it is, natural, artificial, or alive, it has left us changed. It has reminded us of the vastness above and of the smallness we so often forget below. When we first traced its arc against the red backdrop of Mars, we thought we would capture it with our measurements. We believed our instruments would tame it, that numbers and models would bind its mystery into neat explanation. But instead, the opposite happened. Each new calculation brought not clarity, but contradiction. Each answer unraveled into a deeper question, and so we find ourselves where we began, in wonder, in uncertainty, in awe. This is not failure, it is revelation. For in its silence, in its refusal to conform, 3I Atlas has taught us something far greater than its own nature. It has reminded us that the cosmos is not obliged to resolve itself into human terms. It has reminded us that the universe is stranger than we can know, and larger than we can map. Think of what this means. We live on a fragile planet, circling an ordinary star, in a galaxy among billions. And yet, from this tiny place, we dare to look outward. We dare to track the faintest glow of an interstellar wanderer. We dare to ask whether it is rock, relic, or something alive in a way we cannot imagine. That daring, that audacity to wonder, is perhaps the most human act of all. 3. Atlas has stretched our imagination to its breaking point. It has forced us to hold in mind possibilities that seem impossible. A shard of alien technology, a mineral organism, a cosmic messenger, or a stone older than Earth itself. It has shown us the edge of our knowledge, the fragile border where science meets philosophy, where curiosity meets humility. But the story of 3I Atlas is not only about mystery, it is also about perspective. For every time we gaze at it, we are reminded that the universe is not silent because it is empty, but because it is vast. Silence does not mean absence, it means distance. It means patience. It means that the answers we seek may lie far beyond the horizon of our lifetimes, waiting for other eyes, other minds, other civilizations to find. Perhaps we are not meant to know the truth of 3I Atlas today. Perhaps its role is not to give us answers, but to awaken us to the questions we have yet to ask. There is something humbling in this realization. We are a species just beginning its cosmic journey, barely able to step beyond the cradle of our world. We send probes to the edge of the solar system, but they move like grains of dust against the scale of interstellar distance. And yet, even now, the universe has sent us visitors, silent, brief, fleeting. Oumuamua, Borisov, and now, Atlas. What are they? Coincidences of nature? Remnants of lost worlds? Signs of patterns we cannot yet perceive? The answers may never come. but their presence alone is enough to remind us we are not the center, not the measure of all things. We are part of something immeasurable. And so, we return to the heart of the mystery. If 3i Atlas is natural, then it shows us that nature itself can be more inventive than our most ambitious imaginings. If it is artificial, then we are glimpsing the echo of a civilization that reached further than we yet have, a ghostly hint of what might await us if we endure. And if, by some unthinkable chance, it is alive, then life is not the fragile accident we once thought, but a principle written deep into the fabric of the cosmos, natural, artificial, alive. Each possibility reshapes our place in the story of existence, and none can be dismissed. But maybe, just maybe, the true meaning of 3i Atlas lies not in which answer is correct, but in the humility of not knowing. The object will drift onward, out of sight, beyond the reach of our telescopes. Its light will fade. Its presence will be forgotten by the news cycle, lost to the archives of data. But the questions it left behind will remain. They will linger in the minds of scientists, philosophers, dreamers, and children looking up at the night sky. And perhaps that is the legacy of 3i Atlas. Not certainty, but curiosity. Not resolution, but wonder. For the universe is vast. It is humbling. It is mysterious. And if we are wise, we will let it remain so. To seek answers is our nature, but to stand in awe is our privilege. So tonight, if you step outside and look upward, remember this. Somewhere, far beyond the red deserts of Mars, far beyond even the reach of our instruments, drifts a silent traveler, a fragment of elsewhere, a reminder that the cosmos is alive with questions. And whether it is stone or relic or something alive, it speaks to us in its own way. You are small, you are fragile, but you are also capable of wonder. And perhaps, in the end, that is enough. 3i Atlas leaves us not with closure, but with invitation. An invitation to keep watching, to keep asking, to keep dreaming. An invitation to live not in certainty, but in awe. An invitation to remember that for every answer we find, there will always be another question waiting, just beyond the stars. The more we study 3i Atlas, the less we understand it. And maybe that is the greatest gift it could give us. A reminder that the universe, in all its silence and mystery, is still worth looking upward for.